So, welcome yet again to another episode of Sense, the podcast, where we talk about real issues and real solutions. My name is Mumo Liku.
And I'm Saitabao Kaiyare.
I'm Anastacia Waweru.
And today we'll be talking about the Scramble for Africa Reloaded, Part 2, yani the second one.
Yeah.
So, the Scramble for Africa happened a couple of centuries or years ago, where we had Western countries coming to Africa and dividing it up and, each taking its own piece. So we're wondering, is this happening yet again right now, where we have China, India, and Japan and all these countries coming into Africa in the form of bringing us aid and economic aid, humanitarian aid, but as well they're coming to steal from us, for lack of a better word. What do you guys think?
It seems to be happening again, actually, because it seems countries are competing on to who will put more money into our infrastructure, and who will inject more money into our economy. And it seems like the same thing is happening, but in a different way. Like tables have turned. So definitely, yes, I think the same thing is happening.
Well, I strongly disagree with that. I feel it's not more of a scramble. It's more of an awakening. Like Africa is awakening. For far too long, Africa has been oppressed under imperialism. And so, yes, Africa is very rich in terms of resources. You have oil, minerals and all. So I feel right now as we're speaking, there's also market opportunities. So people are coming to Africa because there's opportunity.
Okay, and it's good that you talked about imperialism, because according to the dictionary, they say that imperialism is a policy of extending a country's power and influence through colonization, military force, or other means. So do you feel like we are it's still a form of imperialism, it's just that now they're using a different tactic to get Africa?
Let's call it new age imperialism.
Yeah.
Because now we are definitely in a different time. But as I said before, the same thing is happening in Africa, where people, let's refer to them as countries, are coming to inject their money into Africa. And yes, as Max said, we have resources. But you see, at the end of the day now, who's benefiting? Are we benefiting from them helping us, quote unquote, or are they benefiting more from our resources?
But I don't think it's some sort of imperialism, because look at the definition. Imperialism is when, back in the centuries, like during the Berlin Conference, these guys literally sat down and started subdividing Africa. Like, you'll have this part, you'll have this part. But you see, for instance, the interest, like why Africa is becoming a big interest, it's because of Asia. We have China, Japan, coming in to invest. For them, I would say they haven't sat down in a conference or what and sat down and start talking, subdividing. It's about business.
Countries that are coming to us now, like China and Japan, have very closed cultures, and they're also trying to incorporate their cultures into our Kenyan culture, if I may call it so, or African culture, because they have embassies, I think, all over all over the continent, and in the embassies they teach us about their language, their culture, their music, and we can say their way of life. So as Mumo said, influence, at the end, what's the end goal?
I think it's just being exposed to other cultures. You see, where I feel where we're failing as Africans, we're not also, selling our cultures to them. They're just, this is what we do, this is what we practice, this is how we do. But for us, we're not selling our culture to them. So it's not about they're coming to influence us in regards to, this is how we do, you have to do it. It's not by force. You see, back during colonialism, it was by force. You were supposed to do this. Right now, it's optional. We're just sharing our diverse culture. It's more of interculture relationships.
With the business comes a lot of investment in here, and comes a lot of loans as well. So that is, don't you think that's a form of enslavement, where we have so many loans we've taken against them, but also that the loan is it's disguised as investment.
The reason why we're taking loans is for infrastructure, and for business, for government, infrastructure is business. We get to curb a lot of things like wastage and also like importations of fuel. For instance, if the roads are good, that means the government doesn't have to import so much oil. So I feel it's more of a business perspective. Everyone has a loan eventually, and don't forget, yes, we have a loan, but don't forget, this is the most important thing. Africa is the continent with the highest growing GDP, which is 5.6%. In the next few years, it's going to be 6%. So there's no way we'll ever be indebted like forever. So
True.
yeah.
So here I have a clip by the Chinese president, and we could just take a listen.
To ensure the successful implementation of these 10 cooperation plans, China decides to provide a total of $60 billion of funding support. It includes $5 billion of grant and zero interest loans, $35 billion of preferential facilities and export credit line, and concessional loans on more favorable terms.
So from that clip, you hear that there's 35% of the loans on favorable terms, but the ones that is of zero interest is around 5%. I mean, if you look at that, that's a big percentage, 35%, where we have to pay back with interest. So if they're coming to help us, why is it that that help is such a high price?
Don't forget, they're not coming to help us, they're coming to do business.
But are they taking advantage? That's another thing.
You see, it's more favorable as compared to getting a loan from World Bank, IMF, because at the end of the day, those loans from such institutions have just high interest rates as compared to what China is offering, for instance, or Asia in general. So I feel it's favorable and it's long term, and won't be tied down as compared to getting loans from various institutions.
They're bringing us all the structural engineers are from there, all these engineers are from there, and only the laborers are from Africa. So how are we meant to develop, how are we meant to grow from them and be able to do these things ourselves without their help? What happens when they leave? What will happen? Does that mean that we won't be able to grow in our infrastructure?
Yeah, because you see, I'm glad you mentioned that. The laborers are us. But what happens when the projects end? Because they work, let's say, from Monday to Friday, maybe they will have shifts and they're paid maybe per hour also. But when the projects end, then what you get? It's not long term, so it's for their best benefit. Because they will build the roads, they will get the money. But as you're saying, for us, when they leave, what next?
For now, for instance, in Africa, it's easier to access Asia in terms of education. They're even trying to make direct flights to Asia, to help trading as well, so education as well is brought to Africans as well. So we're not just doing the jobs, we are learning from them, and before we learn, it's going to take some time, baby steps first.
So we've said that there's not much of a scramble, that they're trying to help us get into business. So how do we ensure that there's a win-win situation for both Africa and the different continents or countries that are coming into Africa?
I think the first solution I can give is political stability, because definitely the people who are in power determine a lot, because they are the people at the end of the day who are going to get the money that's being given. These 120 millions and billions are going to go to them, and if the money goes to them and somehow gets lost somewhere and there's some scandals, it's wrong. So I think it starts with leadership.
Again, let me echo that. We also have to have leaders with integrity and who understand the economics of scale.
Also, one of the other things I'd say is we need to, as Africans, not have this sort of individualistic aspect and look to life, where we look at, okay, I've gotten a scholarship to go to Asia to go and study. I've done whatever course I'm doing. Within 5 to 10 years, I've gotten experience in the market, learning from them. And I need to come back to Africa and develop my country, my country develop Africa. Make sure that what I'm doing, even when I'm studying, when I'm working there, everything is just focused on, I need to go back home. I need to go back to my continent and make sure that I'm developing my continent to be also a superpower, a super leader in the world.
And as Mark is saying, we need to have confidence in ourselves, because we do have the manpower, we have the brains, we have the resources, we have the youth, we have everything. So how it is countries that we go to outside help, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It really doesn't make sense. Yeah.
Okay, so I think in conclusion, we just be able to say that even the government has to give incentives to these young people who go outside to study for them to be able to come back.
Yes.
If you know that I'm coming back to a good job, I'm coming back to security in terms of my job, in terms of healthcare, and I know that, okay, after 10 years when I come back home, there's something that I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to develop my country, my continent.
Yeah.
Aliko Dangote, one of Africa's biggest entrepreneurs, says that we need to diversify our investments or our economies, that we don't only just invest in one place, that is infrastructure. We need to diversify. There's manufacturing, there's agribusiness, there's media and arts. So as we are as Africans, as we are investing, we also need to diversify, but we also need to invest ourselves in Africa. Just how Asia is coming to invest in Africa, we also need to do the same. We have very many billionaires and millionaires who are in Africa. They need to invest here and not to just buying land here, there. No. That you're supporting the industries within the African continent. I think that's
true.
something that's very important.
I also wanted to say, like, also if Africans, we unite together and we decided to trade as a bloc, have one currency, like, how the euro, our country, our continent would be strong. So, because at the end of the day, let me just give an example. If I'm from Kenya going to Nigeria, I have to convert my currency, Kenya shillings, to dollar, then to naira. Why dollar? Why don't we have a common currency that, for like the euro, for instance, that's why they're bigger. And if we unite, considering the vast resources we have, we would be way ahead, would be one of the greatest continents in this world. And and I believe we can, don't you guys? I think we can.
Of course.
That's
So that's been Sense the Podcast. We've been doing our second episode, which is Rest of the World, Scramble for Africa Reloaded. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Sense the Podcast. We are as well on Facebook, Sense the Podcast, Twitter @Sense the Podcast, and on SoundCloud as well, Sense the Podcast. I'm Anastacia Waweru.
And I'm Saitabao Kaiyare.
I'm Mumo Liku.
See you guys.